Okay, it's a little bit hard to think of anything I haven't said about my adaptation, but this is very much, this is the, this is the backstage, this is the home run, as it were. We got halfway through. Oh, this is something I'd like to, I could tell you that I don't think I've said to the big audience, which is that when we first offered the part to Colin Firth, he read the first 3 episodes, and that was all we had at that stage. And he never read Pride and Prejudice, so he just read the first 3 episodes of the strip, and he said, well, yes, it's interesting, but and that's the part, is it? That's it. He goes out and she meets somebody else. And I'm out of it. And we said, no, Colin. It goes on. And he said, oh, right, I'd better read the book. And so he did. And he became, in a remarkably short amount of time, a big Jane Austen fan. Because he'd gone to a school, you see, where, an all-boys school, where he'd read manly books, you know, Conrad, all that kind of stuff, adventures, and all that kind of thing, not go to bits. And he became a huge Jane Austen expert and read the whole canon. So that's one thing that happened. I've already talked this afternoon about the problems of the back half book. Too many people dispersed all round England in different places, writing letters to each other, and all the ways I had to use to get round that. Letters with voiceovers, letters with flashbacks, letters with this, that, and the other, in a way to keep the whole thing organic. But some of the things that I enjoyed doing were, as always, I think, following up those scenes that Jane Austen declined to write, and or forgot to write. Of course, she never. Pride and Prejudice is such a perfect book. She never forgot. It was always a kind of choice, and one of the things that we talked about a lot was this thing about what Darcy does in the second half of the book, after he discovers, the big problem with Lydia and Wickham and the elopement, and he just goes off, and Elizabeth thinks, I'll never see him again. But really, what he is doing is just fixing the whole story. He feels responsible because he didn't reveal Wickham's crimes, and he's determined to fix it. So the thing is, do we stay with Elizabeth not knowing anything, or do we go with Darcy and understand that being the real hero here and fixing it all up? Do we reveal the whole thing, or do we just hint to the audience so that they can put the rest and start guessing? Because everybody's already thinking that Darcy is a good guy because of things revealed in the letter, etc., etc. Except we don't really know. So I settled for something in the middle of all this. Another thing I was just totally tempted by was this notion of is Lydia really a ruined woman? Is her life destroyed by, you know, falling for Wickham's charms? And I thought, not a bit of it. I thought, she's going to have such a bloody good time being a fallen woman. That I must write one or two scenes like this with Lydia, totally enjoying, you know, having sex 2 or 3 times a day, wearing that poor old Wickham. We're thinking, well, you know, this is all very well, but man has other things to do, and I've got to try and deal with my creditors and try to sort out my accounts, and he's just hoping for all sorts of things. And in fact, rescue is at hand, because Darcy, with his almost unlimited wealth, is prepared to buy him off. But it's interesting to have a little think about where everybody is in this second half of the story. Elizabeth and Jane still despairing of what's going to happen. Mrs. Bennet, desperate, almost, you know, falling into hysterics and some sort of illness. Mr. Bennet, a totally useless father. a man of charm and wit who has done nothing really for his daughters at all. Thinking, oh, you know, will my brother-in-law Gardner help me? And he's very aware of what he's done wrong, but in that wonderful line, he's a very complex character. And I always wanted to make him a little bit darker than he is in the book. Not so charming. I know he's always has something witty to say, but it's a kind of bitter loser's wit, I think, in a lot of ways. He's a guy who feels he's thrown his own life away. I always reckon that Mrs. Bennet was very much of a Lydia as a girl, very, very attractive, you know, very much up for it. He got her pregnant, decided to do the decent thing, married her, and regretted it, you know, from that moment on. Shut himself away in the study, hoped he would father a boy. Well, you'd think a reasonable bet, but it never happened. And now there he is. But Darcy rescues everybody. He's a really good guy, but also, let's remember, he's got almost unlimited wealth. So, almost the moral of the story might be, get somebody on your side who is so rich that it doesn't make much difference what he spends. So there we all are, and we're kind of set for the second run of the story, and I'm very touched that you turned up to sit through it again. I'm sure you've done it many times before, but I think some of those things that I mentioned just now are the things that I'd kind of like you to look out for, and I suppose if you weren't in the session this afternoon, I could say that my favourite scene of all in this series is the scene in the music room at Pemberley in episode 5, when Elizabeth rescues Georgiana from a little embarrassment created by Miss Bingley, and Darcy looks across the room at her with gratitude. Elizabeth looks back at him with something that he recognises as affection. He's never seen that from her before. He looks back, she looks back, and you think, wow, this is it, this is love. And then you think, you know, happy ending. And then Jane Austen, brilliant plotting, clicks in, because the next day he dresses up in his best suit, goes round to the inn at Lambton, I'm sure to renew his proposal because he's got that hope, but finds her in despair because she's just heard the bad news about Lydia, which makes the whole family disgraced and she can't marry anybody. And he goes off and she thinks, he can't bear to be in the same room with me. It's all over. I'll never see him again. But we know that he's gone off to rescue her. What a great story, isn't it?